All you gotta do is just speak. One word is enough, and I'm no longer so rough. I forget what I was trying to say. I no longer do what I was gonna do, but you're no good for me. That's why me know I said me if it could flee. Me have to take away me say. Me have to take away me say. Me have to hide like a thief in the night. Me have to get out of sight. Me have to take away me say. Have to take away me self. I have to utilize I weeds. Surely I cleave your eyes. I said, yeah, I find you very hard to resist. With this relationship I'm gonna desist. But how can I face you when all I wanna do is just taste you?
Greetings, kings and queens. Welcome to another Real Stuff podcast. Today is Tuesday, and if it's Tuesday, it's Discussion Tuesday. Yes, that's a new series on the Real Stuff podcast. And today, our special guest this morning is none other than Mr. Debon Panton. And he will be here this morning to do a 20 minutes presentation. And this presentation is on Sacred Dwarfs, aka Dwarf Spirit. So, sit and stay, don't go nowhere. I see Ansel is there with me this morning inside the Zoom meeting. So welcome, Ansel, welcome. So I'm going to get Flavius and we'll be right back.
Been there, done that, don't need it again, yeah. I'm not a masochist who won't play your game, yeah. To all you move your arm, me way to the core. Sayonara, the hot girl gone through the door. Take away ourselves. Ah, yeah, 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 yeah. Say no goodbye, girl, let me take away ourselves. Yeah, take away ourselves. No goodbye, girl, let me take away ourselves.
Hi, this is Pam Howard, and I'm inviting you to hang out with Flavius and Franco on the Real Stuff podcast. They're such great company. This is your very own sports, music, and lifestyle podcast with Flavius and Franco. Welcome.
I wish that you were the man in my life. I would like to take you to my home to be with me forever. I really love you, baby. Want you forever. Really love you, baby. Really want you, baby. I wish that you were the man in my life. I would like to take you to my home to be with me forever. I really love you, baby. Want you forever. Really love you, baby. Love I will give you is so powerful, so special. Under your skin it will flow through your vein. My love's insane. This love I give, I just can't stop. It's in your face, even when you turn your want to be with me forever. Really love you, baby. Want you forever and ever. Really want you, baby.
Really want you, baby.
Whoa, whoa. Ooh, forever and ever. Yeah, yeah. I know you're wondering why my love is so strong. It's 'cause I see something in you pushing me on. The day you try to chase my love away is when you know my love was meant to stay. 'Cause this love I give, I just can't stop. It's in your face, oh yeah. When you turn your back, I wish that you were the man in my life. I would like to take you home with me forever. Oh, really want you, baby.
Really love you, baby.
Want you forever. Ever. Really want you, baby.
Really want you, baby.
Love I will give you is so powerful, special. Under your skin it will flow through your vein. My love's insane. This love I give, I just can't stop.
Just can't stop.
It's in your face, even when you turn your back. Hey,
Just
it's just like a magnifying glass. Hey, the heat that I transmit will melt your heart. Hey, I wish that you were the man in my life. I would like to take you home to be with me forever. Yeah.
Anger and nervous finger is a recipe for total disaster. If you have a dispute with a friend or a family member, stay far from social media. When the adrenaline rush to your brain, just keep calm and remain sane. Don't react too quick, you will get caught with the insecure matrix. When head chip, vengeance cast loose tongue to slip. So before you spit, edit the script. Gossip is toxic. Gossip is toxic. The only thing it creates is shame and regrets. Life is like a boomerang. The cause return with the effects. So think before you post. One click, like magic, the whole of your business exposed.
Yes, indeed. You heard earlier on the music of Miss Pam Hall, Want You Forever. And now this one is from Cherry Natural, social media. I got with me this morning Flavius, as we get ready for our guests at 11:15 my time in the US, 10:15 your time in Jamaica, and if you're in the Caribbean, it's 11:15 Eastern Caribbean time. Top of the morning, Flavius, top of the morning.
Good morning, Franco. Good morning, listeners, viewers. Welcome to the Real Stuff Podcast. What's happening on your side?
In my side, my neck of the woods, we're slightly overcast. That's about it this morning, and my community is very quiet. I think everybody's indoors this morning. I don't see it active like it usually be. So I guess they realize, hey, the summer is coming. It's winding up.
Coming.
Outside is getting a little bit hot. So when it's hot, you don't have people coming out. They stay indoors to suck up on those AC.
Yeah.
I think that's why, I don't see so many kids outside. Or maybe they're doing virtual classes this morning as well.
Okay. Well, we are very quiet too. And outside is very bright. Not very hot, but the heat is there. And it will keep coming. as the days go on, you know.
All
But
right.
it is very nice weather now. Extremely nice weather.
Okay.
Very nice weather. Yeah.
I see.
And we are all always green.
It's always green. I see our guest getting ready to come in. Mr.
Okay.
Panton is coming in the room this morning.
Okay, wonderful. Bring him in.
Oh, he's already in. He's already in. He's already in. Let me make him settle up and then we can shoot him up and beam up everybody. Let me welcome everyone in the chat room this morning. I can see Debon is here.
Yes,
Morning,
man,
Debon. Top of the morning, Ansel. Top of the morning, Ansel. Courtney, top of the morning.
Yeah, morning, Franco. Morning.
Let me show my face a little bit.
Franco. Morning, sir.
That's me right there a little bit.
I've seen you guys for a while. How have you been doing?
Good. So let me just tell our viewers this morning who are viewing us on YouTube that this is a 20 minutes presentation by Mr. Panton this morning. And then he's going to have the floor open for discussions. And then after that, we can, discuss any other issues. So go ahead, Debon. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much, host. It's a pleasure being here. I just like to thank all the listeners, who are here. Today we're going to be talking about an entity that doesn't get spoken about very often. It's going to sound very unreal, very mythical, very mystical, etc. I'm going to be sharing my screen. You're going to have to enable me to share my screen. There's a PowerPoint presentation, all right?
Go ahead now, go ahead.
All right. Okay. Okay, guys. We're gonna start now. Is that okay?
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
All right, cool. Today's presentation is called Sacred Dwarves. As I was saying, it's not something that gets spoken about very often. Not many people know about them. It's gonna be very esoteric, very mystical even. So I'm saying keep an open mind, okay?
All right.
But bear in mind that these traditions, these entities belong to traditions that all predate Christianity by thousands of years, all right? They're essentially a separate group of small, non-homogeneous entities that can occupy either the physical or the spiritual world, meaning they can materialize themselves and be just among us like, regular human beings, or they can dematerialize. Now we're going to be looking at the agenda next to show you the order in which we're going to be going. I'm going to be looking at their general physiology and characteristics. Can everybody see this?
Yeah, man, I'm seeing it. I think they can see it. You seeing it, Courtney? Yes, they're seeing it.
Okay. Then we're going to look at examples that that persist in children's stories, and we're going to look at types of dwarf entities, modern day representation in the Americas, Europe, Asia, the Orient, Africa, and then we're going to come to we're going to tie it home to St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, Cuba, and Jamaica. Our general physiology. These are very small humanoids, between a half meter to a meter in height. And going back to the old measurements is between a little over 19 and a half inches to 39 inches. A little over 39 inches in height. Some are genderless, some are males, some are females, others are androgynous. While very small, some are, very petite, pretty, plump, and they can also be very ghoulish. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a little while. Some are covered with hair from head to feet. Others have very long hair on their head. The hair is so long it actually drags behind them on the ground, right? Some may be deformed, others walk with a limp. There are some dwarf entities that have only a single leg, they actually hop. Right? Remember I said it's gonna get very esoteric very quickly, so I'm asking you to keep an open mind. Some have a single eye in the middle of their face. Some have no face that as we know it, no eyebrows, no eyes, etc. They only have a nose, others only have a mouth. Some live in rivers, others in the sea, as river or sea dwarfs. Others live in the deep, hilly, inaccessible parts of the jungle in caves, Those that live in caves are said to live underground or in trees. In some traditions, we speak of tree elves, but I'm going to get to that a little more. They can either be benevolent or malevolent, meaning they are neither good nor bad. It is how you use them. All right? These are entities that are used in a number of spiritual traditions. Remember, we're going back to traditions that predate Christianity. All right? They guard their property very jealously. Those that live in the jungles or in caves or in rivers, they are very jealous. They guard it very jealously. And if humans erect permanent structures on their land, it requires ongoing appeasements and provisions of gifts. We're going to tie that back to Jamaica in a little while. Representation that persists in modern day children's stories. They have heard seven Snow White and 7 dwarves. 7 dwarves. Rumpelstiltskin, that was the man that to show the young lady how to do the thing, because the king was going to kill her. Then you've got the dwarf with the golden beard. He was said to be 2 feet in height. Now, I'm not saying that these characters existed exactly as they are depicted in the children's stories, but they are based on entities that previously existed. All right, this is how they survive into today. Because remember, when Christianity came, it has overlaid itself on everything else. And everything before it was evil, everything after it is evil. And I'm not decrying Christianity, I'm just saying the way that I see it. Are types of dwarf entities. In a number of children's stories, you have read about brownies, dwarfs, as some of them call them dwarfs, just the same. You've got elves, fairies, and the spelling is, it varies depending on whether it's British or American, etc. Then we have read of goblins, etc. Gnomes, leprechauns, pixies, and trolls. These are all dwarf entities, and they survive in modern day children's stories and nursery rhymes. This is how they, manage to survive. Modern day representation. Keebler Biscuit is known for this. Unless you know what to look for, you'd never figure that this is a dwarf. E.L. Fudge, E.L.F. That is elf. That's an elf right here. You can see E.L.F.
Yeah.
So he survives as an elf. The Kellogg's Rice Krispies, Snap Crackle Pop, these are also elves. Alright? They survive into today's marketing. They are used as some of the mascots for some of these products. Then you have heard of you have seen this one on TV very often. The gnome. The velocity gnome. Be my gnome. I'm not sure if the G is silent or you have to pronounce it, but this is how it is represented. Now, in terms of whether these entities are connected to spiritual traditions, it depends on the people that you're talking to and the traditions to which these people belong. Now, the one that I think comes closest to being connected to modern day Christianity is this guy. St. Patrick's the leprechaun. The Irish have managed to make him survive within the Christian realm. St. Patrick is a Roman or Christian missionary that did a lot of work with people. And he's recognized with green and the clover, etc., island. But the Irish managed to keep the leprechaun in there with his magical medicine and his the gold shillings, etc., I think they call it, at the end of the rainbow. So this is how he managed to survive. All right? We're going to take a quick look around the world to see what they are known as. We're going to start in the Americas. In the Americas, the Native Canadians refer to them as little people. I spoke to a Native Canadian priestess, and she told me that in her tribe, and again, the name, the nomenclature depends on the tribe within which the person you're talking to actually belongs. In the Native Canadian, that particular tribe, the little people, and she told me that they're neither good nor bad. It all depends on how you use them. Native Americans, they're also little people, but then again, across America, you have a number of different tribes: Apaches, Comanches, Cherokee, and all of that, the Iroquois, etc. They all have their own name for this entity. Some speak of Jogas and a number of other names. In Central America, primarily in Mexico, they're known as the duendes. They live in closets and they, come out and tickle children's feet bottom in the night or something like that. That is how they survive. South America, the Chuyachaki. These are said to have a single leg and they hop. In what's the name of that jungle? I don't remember. In South America, in the Orient, Ireland, we spoke about the leprechauns already. The UK, you may have read, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, the Simon Side Dwarves. You can Google it. It is there on Google on the internet. In Germany, they have the kobold. Again, these are all, entities that belong to traditions that predate Christianity. They do not survive as part of Christian theology or Christian religion. In Russia, they have the Domorov. The Domorov are said to be able to manifest themselves as dogs or cats, or even as a lighted candle. Again, these are very old traditions. All right. India, you've got the Yaksas. These can either be male or female. In Japan, you have the Sukana Bikona. You can Google any of these things that you see here, and you can get some information, further information on them. We're going to look at Western and West Central Africa. Now, my research is focused on this particular area, Western and West Central Africa, primarily five spiritual traditions I'm looking at are ethnicities. In the Akom Ghana, they're known as the Moetias, all right, the sacred dwarves. For the Voodoo people from Togo and Benin, they're known as Siawesi or the Yevo. All small entities. Within the Yoruba, they are known as the Arone and the Egbere. The Ijoa tradition of the Calabar region, they have a combination word called Kumbwama Kalamapu. It means dwarf who travels in the water, dwarf who travels with a map. They never had a single word for it, so this is how they refer to it. In the Congo, they are known primarily as Dwarf Spirit, but I am sure that within the Congo, in their various ethnicities, the local dialects, they have their own words for these entities, and this is what they are known as. All right, around the Caribbean, we're going to take a look around the Caribbean, and we're going to start with St. Lucia, then we go to Trinidad and Tobago, Cuba, and then Jamaica. In St. Lucia, they are known as the Tibolum. These again are small, generally said to be about 3 feet tall or even shorter, sexless, genderless, but taking the form of a small humanoid. Their feet are turned backwards, and this is something that I've seen. This came directly with us from West Africa, from Western and West Central Africa. Within Ghana, Yoruba, the Congo, all of them, the feet of the dwarf entities, these sacred dwarves, are turned backwards. The toes don't point in front of them like us humans. The toes point behind. The heel is in front. So this again, I can say, came directly with us, our ancestors that were taken here to the Caribbean and the diaspora. They're not of the physical realm, but they can be seen with physical eyes by whomever they wish to see them. Right? They live in the forest, and people conjure them to protect property and their interests. In St. Lucia, they can be conjured up on that bamboo tree, certain rites or ritual seance they call it, or the points where 4 roads meet. I see within St. Lucia, the crossroads is very important to Yoruba Orisha Eshu. That's the garden of the crossroad. I see some sort of maybe morphing or merging of Yoruba here. I'm not sure where the bamboo tree comes from, but the crossroads is definitely Orisha Eshu. They can be trained to be good or bad. As I said before, they're neither good nor bad. It depends on how they are used, and and are used as a source of power by the conjurers. Some consider them to be evil. Yes, it does happen. Some will say that they are evil. These are primarily Christians, and let me not say Christians. These are primarily people who believe in the Abrahamic faiths. They normally regard entities such as these as evil. They're said to be very strong and should be fed with raw meat. Again, this is St. Lucia, based on the research literature. Back in the day, many St. Lucians were convinced that they guarded banks, and there were even reported sightings of Tibolums in banks. Now, in Ghana, is a similar thing. They've got what they call ritual crimes, where the Moetias, this is how they are known in Ghana, amongst the Fantiacom tradition. They're used to rob banks, etc. So yes, again, this came with us directly from West Africa, Western and West Central Africa. Now in Trinidad and Tobago, they are known as the Doyens. They're considered to be lost souls of children that were either died before being baptized, either christened, died or before christened, they died before baptized or being christened. Now, I see some sort of morphing here with Christianity. The baptism at birth, I think, is primarily a Christian ritual. There are other rituals from other traditions, but let's say baptized or christened. So I'm interpreting that the way in which these words are interpreted within the Christian environment. It could very well be that they're from this part of the tradition came from somewhere in West Africa. I don't know. I'm saying that, based on the usage of the word baptized or christened before that, then, these were not baptized or christened before that. So they were not brought under the umbrella of Christ, which to me is another Christian, thing. It is said that they are destined to wander the earth eternally, where they're practicing a collection of their pranks. The pranks part of it kind of point me either to the Anansi in Ghana. That's that's a trickster from the Akom tradition, or Orisha Eshu from the Yoruba. He's also known as a trickster. Could be from either of the two of them. I'm not sure which it is. I haven't looked, too deeply on that aspect of it. They're neither male nor female. They live in forests, swamps, and rivers in Trinidad and Tobago. Again, these are traditions that predate Christianity. Sorry, that were brought here by our ancestors. When I say here, I mean to the diaspora or to the Caribbean, with our ancestors who were taken as slaves. Their manifestation of that of a naked child growing no more than 2 or 3 feet in height, that's consistent across all the African spiritual traditions that I've looked at. That is the 5 that I've looked at. In Trinidad and Tobago, they're said to wear a large floppy hat and have an entirely undistinguished face, with the exception of a small mouth or nose. I did make mention earlier that some are not said to have faces as we know faces to be, either no eyes or nose or mouth. Again, the one characteristic that allows them to be recognized as doyens are their feet, which are turned backwards with the heel facing forward. It come back again to what I said earlier. With the moetias, their heels are in front and their toes point behind them. I know it in your mind, it may be twisting your mind to understand how the entity actually walks. I don't know, I can't explain that to you. I'm just telling you what the research literature has said. All right. In Trinidad and Tobago, there have been actual reports of doyen encounters from children in rural areas of Trinidad, and they gave a couple of examples. Pipara, Pinal, Barakpur. Again, this is Trinidad and Tobago. And the next image, the next page will show you an artist's impression of what these entities look like as it relates to Trinidad and Tobago. All right, remember, the manifestation depends on the people that you're talking to. They may look differently in India. It may look differently in Germany, but within Trinidad and Tobago, this is what they look like. Notice the heels are pointed backwards. This is what the literature has said. And there are no eyes. There may be some areas that look like eyes, but there are no eyes. There's a nose, and no mouth, etc. They're said to wear large floppy hats. Again, this is an artist's impression or an artist's representation, but this is based on the Trinidad interpretation of it. Okay? I'm going to take a look at Cuba. In Cuba, they speak of the Arone, and this comes back directly to Yoruba land. The Arone, spirit with one leg, that teaches, usage of the herbs. The thing about the sacred dwarves, and I've noticed this across Africa as well. Another thing that I notice is that they tend to invite children away. I don't want to say kidnap, but they lead them away into the forest and teach the children the secrets of the sacred dwarf medicine, and that is primarily herbal. Not primarily, that is strictly herbal. They are taught herbal medicine that belong to in Ghana, you would say belong to the Moetias. In Yoruba land, belong to the Arone or the Egberian, So in the Calabar region, I spoke about the Kumbwama Kalamapu, that is the sacred dwarf as it is represented in the Calabar region. The priest that I was speaking to told me that someone who's trained by the dwarf entity, when this person enters the forest, the plants actually call out to them and tell this person what ailments they are good for. So this is how it is represented within the Kalabari, and that is similar within Ghana. When the priest goes in the forest, sometimes it doesn't say that it is the Moetias that tell them what plant to pick, but it's whichever divinity to which they supplicate actually tells them which plants to pick. All right. The egg bearer, again, from the Yoruba, the Aroni and the egg bearer are the Yoruba representations. Smallish elf that carries a mat and weeps all the while. In Yoruba, egg bearer means dwarf that cries in the forest. Okay. The Iwin, that is in Cuba. I'm not sure from where this came. A fair belief to live in the ground. Remember when they said they live in caves? They thought they're said to live underground. They live in rocks, forests, or on a hill. Okay. Jamaica. I'm going to be looking at Jamaica, but from a slightly different perspective. I'm going to look at the characteristics, and I'm going to look at what happens. And I'm going to allow you to decide within your mind if there are dwarf entities here, if there are sacred dwarves here in Jamaica. Now let us look at the characteristics. They live in hilly, inaccessible, unreachable areas of the woodlands. They guard their lands very jealously. If solid structures are erected on their land, constant appeasements and gifts are required. Now remember, I have to, I should have said it earlier, but Jamaica really is Taino countries. The Tainos are the indigenous people here. All right, the Africans came afterwards. And the Tainos formed the first set of Maroons. All right, they ran away, those that survived ran away and, went into the hills. And, the Africans that ran away joined them. So in some, inaccessible areas in Jamaica, there may still be Taino altars there that have remained undisturbed for 200-300 years. Okay. It says, if solid structures are erected on the lands, constant appeasements and gifts are required. All right. Next, look at new highways being constructed which pass through previously virgin lands. All right. Next, no appeasement rituals are being carried out to make offerings to entities which may have previously claimed these lands before they are open to the public. So we'll find fantastic highways. Road surfaces are very good, and it cuts down the time from, say, down by Caymanas to Miami Bay to Ocho-Rios, outside of Ocho-Rios. Instead of doing hour and a half, do it in half hour. All right? Now let us look at what has happened on some of the roads that have been cut. Very violent, very bloody motor vehicle accidents. Motor vehicle accidents taking place involving very fiery deaths of some persons. Persons being violently flung from motor vehicles while living blood is soaking into the road surface as they die on the spot. These are people who are flung from motor vehicle. They may live 2 or 3 minutes, but they're on the surface and they're bleeding into the surface of the road. Right? Now, remember, part of the characteristics I said, they guard their lands very jealously. And when permanent structures are erected on the land, they have got to be constant appeasement. Now, the thing with dwarf entities is that, sacred dwarves, is that they tend to require more and more in terms of appeasement. All right, they will keep on asking, demanding more and more, and you keep on having to be giving them more. Put another way, you may offer a plate of food today, and by next week, they need more than just a plate of food. They need more. They may need 2 plates of food, and it keeps on increasing. All right. Now, we see roads, nice roads being built, services great, but then it is, we can boil it down to speeding and careless driving. Fine. If that is how you choose to look at it, then, that's fine. But then, we find that no appeasement rituals are being done. No consecration of the road is being done. The entities will have claimed the areas for themselves. If there are entities, you will decide that. And then this is how, non-appeasement makes itself manifest. Very bloody, very violent, very fiery motor vehicle accidents. Persons become very, violently from motor vehicles onto the road surface and dying there. All right. Within the spiritual traditions, again, I said, depends on the people who are speaking. For instance, in Ghana, the Moetias are part of the spiritual tradition. There are priests who deal directly with the Moetias. And so, somebody's mic is on. And so too in the Calabar region, I've been talking to people who said that they've been attacked by the Moetias. But not Moetias, by the Kumbuamakala Amapu. That is the Ijaw representation in the Calabar region. People being attacked by them for a number of reasons. I can't say how these are entertained, for want of a better term, in Europe or in the Orient or in the Americas. I know that in Yoruba land, unlike Christianity, there has not been any consolidation of the tradition. So you find some of the priests, when they were being trained, when they were being mentored, they were taught not to appease the dwarf entities. Others continue to appease them, and so it all depends on who the person teaching you. It depends on who it was that taught them. Some may say one Babalawo that lives in San Francisco told me that when he was being trained, he was told by his mentor that if you appease the dwarf entities, your guardian Orisha will walk away from you. Now, not many people want to do that or risk their guardian Orisha walking away from them. Your guardian Orisha in Yoruba tradition is essentially your guardian angel. Put another way. All right. There's another Babalawo. He lives in Lagos, and he says he appeases them, and he has his own way of appeasing them. In Ghana, they are appeased, and their offerings are made to them, etc. Calabar region, they are appeased, and in the Congo, they have the priests told that there are essentially two types of sacred dogs. One is human, and one is non-human. The human ones tend to be pygmies. These are very small people. They are fully grown, fully developed male pygmy, maybe like 4'6", 4'7". Very rarely you find any over that. And you find pygmies, fully grown males, fully developed male that are 3 feet, 3 feet 2, 3 feet 3, etc. They're very small people. Sadly, within the Bantu region, there are some persons that do not regard them as humans. All right. Now, the priest that I spoke to, the Congolese priest, he says that he recognizes these as humans, but he says that there are others that are not humans. These come from further back in time. These are spirits that have been reborn for a millennium. In the African worldview, when someone dies, they're reborn as another person, your offspring, etc. Or it can be reborn in another family. It all depends on the tradition that you're talking to. Now, the dwarves that are not human, they were entities that lived before normal human beings. Homo sapien came into being. Homo erectus, yes, they walk upright, but they are not human, not fully humans. All right? And these are some of the entities that we're talking to. Now, that brings me to the end. I'm not sure if there are any questions. I'm going to stop the share, and we can talk a little more after that.
Right, folks. You heard Mr. Debon Panton presentation. So feel free to go ahead and start your discussions. Ask your questions, whatever.
Mr. Panton, I'm so eager to ask so many questions, sir.
Yes,
They may not be regular question.
Sorry?
No,
What?
they may not be regular questions.
Go ahead, man. I
right.
as much as I can.
I want you to say it, so feel free to ask.
Yeah, feel free to ask.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Now, I have been listening, and it's a lot of information, and it's a whole lot to digest in one.
Absolutely.
Right. So right now, I
went very quickly too.
Yes, and you purposely did something this morning because I was listening to you. You call a lot of big names where we can't repeat.
Like what?
What you mean? Like when I say pangalangalang, I don't know what you say.
Oh, okay, no.
What is a word?
Yeah, stick up in English. I refer to them as the dwarf spirits or sacred dwarves.
No, man, not that part.
Hold on. In a region such as the Ijaw, in the Calabar region of Nigeria, they do not speak. The English is not their mother tongue. They have their own local language, and within that language, the same entity that I call sacred dwarf is known as the Kumbu Amakala Amapu.
Hear it, Kumbulumbo Ambalang.
And we can say sacred dwarf. Don't get hung up on the names.
All right, fine. So I'll stick with the sacred dwarves.
Yeah, that's fine.
When I was growing up, I usually know of the shorter version of people who we called dwarves. So if you were an adult and you tend to be short, like from the knees down, once you catch any adult on them knee, you're known as dwarves. Now, you are now introducing us to a different version of this whole thing where it is now in a spirit-like manner. Yes. Now, I have worked with dwarves. I still work with dwarves. And we see them as people.
Yes. Let me be clear.
And what I noticed though, however, when you are calling on the other nations or the other countries or other places, it sounded as if they were not recognized. Correct me if I'm wrong. They are not recognized as persons, but here in Jamaica, we appreciate the dwarves here. No, it's a different version or a different take now when I was listening to the grounds getting bloody and all these things. So I kind of get a bit scary now because it is leading me to think, is it that these dwarves come from underground and flick over the vehicle them and a whole lot of something? Me get nervous just now. So explain that part for me, please.
All right, let me be clear. The people that we know as dwarfs in Jamaica, these are not the people I'm talking about. These are human beings who suffer from a condition called dwarfism.
Okay.
All right? I don't want to say suffer, but they have a condition called dwarfism. These are not the people. Remember, I told you, the sacred dwarfs can materialize themselves and they can dematerialize. They can make themselves visible and they can become invisible. These are not human beings we're talking about. They reside somewhere between the physical and the spiritual realm, all right? And they are part of some of the spiritual traditions as spiritual entities themselves that are appeased and sacrificed and supplicated to. These are not human beings. It's not that Mr. Brown down the road who's a dwarf. No, that's not.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you very much for that question because I had not thought of it like that until you brought it up.
Okay, because right now, may I tell you the truth, you know. Me have a little dwarf for me, I work with it now. May I tell you,
He's human. I'm not talking about, dwarf human beings.
All right, thank you.
Debon, I have a question. And my question is, when you mention about the highway accidents and the blood and etc., are you saying also that these people are protecting their property by causing these accidents?
One of the things that I know is that they guard their properties very jealously. And if you build solid structures, permanent structures on their land, you have to appease them or they get angry and they do terrible things. I am saying the accidents that happen could be indicative. Could be. The only way to know for sure is to have one of the priests actually go in the general area of the highway and make a call for them to present themselves. And when I say present themselves, I don't mean to
the spiritual realm. Okay.
Let them and tell what it is, whether they are the ones doing it, and if so, what it is that they need to have done in order to stop. That is what I'm saying.
How do we appease them?
What?
You said you have to appease them, so I'm asking the question. How do you appease them before you build structures and your premises?
Appeasement could involve rituals, and normally we don't discuss rituals. We don't get into the mechanics of how the rituals are done. What is done first and what is done second, etc. We tend not to discuss that. We just say that there are rituals that need to be done that the priest or priestess will do. We're not gender specific when I say priest, but just to be sure, the priest or the priestess for the particular tradition will go in the woods and do whatever rituals, and we'll come back out and say, okay, in order for this to stop or for everything to be fine, it's about regaining balance. Their land has been disturbed. And there are vehicles passing over it now. These lands have been idle for 200, 300, 400 years since the start of time. And suddenly you have a lot of vehicles passing over. The entities feel, some of them have never, well, not some, they would never have seen a motor vehicle, before the highway was because they tend not to go to them on the main road. And so, again, we tend not to speak about rituals. I'm not going to tell you that.
Okay, when growing up, I have seen where friends, family member purchase new homes, and before they move in, they would either burn frankincense and myrrh, or they would kill a fowl, sprinkle the blood. Yeah, and sprinkle the blood around the premises, or they would do the rum ritual. Yeah,
even buildings.
Exactly. I've seen it done also in Jamaica at a big institution. I'm not going to call them name right now, right? And they had sprinkle rum around the premises before they start development. So that's why I asked you the appeasement part, if it, include things like, stuff like that.
Well, my response to that is maybe. I'm not gonna be specific.
All right.
Well, and I hope, cause all right, listen, I was at a foundation that was being prepared
Yes.
to transform into a home-like situation, and I heard them calling for rum.
Yes.
Some say, well, and a beer drunk a there, so everybody just a drink rum. So of course, they went for the rum and stuff. When me look, it was like a wetting up. Some say, hold on a little bit, hold on. So at the end of the day, I don't think I want to know. I don't think I want to go as deep as how you are studying it, because this look like it deep. And then at the end of the day, again, when you think about even as a child growing up, and you tend to see them cut the necks and stuff like that and sprinkle, it is crazy. It is as when you grow up now and you think about it, you want to know now where else or what else or how else can I learn of what is happening. So it's going to want, when you're a child, that's fine, you see it and that's it. But as an adult, because I'm pretty sure that is what led you to go so deep in figuring out what is what, because you saw these things that you wanted to know. You see a smile because you know that's it.
Yeah, well, in terms of...
But Debon,
Yes. Who's this now? Flavius?
this is Flavius, yeah. Does this have anything to do with stories you used to hear when you're a child about treasures being buried and entities are guarding it, for a period of time, and they usually the argument is that when they get tired now and want to go off, they dream somebody and tell them where to find it and things like that.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is, does it relate to things like mermaids?
Yeah. All right. Let me step back a bit and deal with the blood and the rum first, and then I'll come to you. All right?
Okay, no problem.
Blood and the rum. These are remnants of rituals that came with us from Africa. They are still done in Africa. The Maroons still have their own special rituals that they do. I can't tell you how they do it, obviously. But, blood is being offered. Blood is really a giver of life. It has to be a living animal that is sacrificed on site. They can't kill it and drain the blood at your home and carry blood to the location. The animal has to die there. Living blood is used. The rum is there to appease the spirits of the ancestors who may be around and other wandering spirits, whether they're friendly or not, sort of, quench them. That is why you find whenever a building is being erected and the foundation is being dug and being, concrete is being poured, and the blood is poured into the foundation for, entities that may have claimed the land and may have resided there. That is what that is about. Now, in terms of the stories about, things being stored underground, you have a number of myths and legends that actually may have changed over the years. I remember as a child growing up, I was told that in the Raya Cobra there's a gold table, and there's the River Muma that guard it. River Muma now is an entity within the revival tradition. I don't know if it's the same River Muma that they were talking about at the time. And that there are times when the table come up to the surface, and if you throw a rope over it, to drag it back down into the river with it, nobody has ever been able to get it. I don't know. This is what I hear, What I'm saying is that a number of entities came with us in our minds and in spirit with us from Africa, and were adapted to the Jamaican landscape, to the Jamaican cultural landscape and geographic landscape as well. So these entities, the stories associated with them have been morphed over time. Remember, it's not just Africa alone people are taken from and brought here. In the post emancipation period, you had persons from India, from the Orient, etc. A number of other traditions and more Africans too were actually brought here. So a number of the stories sort of morph between traditions, and nowadays look nothing like what the initial people, were talking about when they were speaking about them. That's the closest I can go.
And it's the same down at Flatbridge.
You trying to draw me out to Don't it? Yeah, I've heard that on Flatbridge though. I don't know if it is true, let me tell you, let me be honest. I don't know if it is true. But I've heard of that Flatbridge though.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Debon.
Yes, man. Who is this?
This is Courtney.
Yes, Courtney.
Okay, my question may sort of differ from what you are speaking about. First, I must say thank you for a great presentation. I mean, I was really enlightened by it.
Okay.
But I want to ask you a question like this. Speak about the role of Western esoteric philosophy, Asian and African traditional practices play in modern spirituality as opposed to the Christian religion practices.
All right. Asian spiritual tradition, a number of things that take place in Jamaica. In Jamaica, there's a tradition called Obia, and it is illegal. Fact of the matter, it is not purely African. You know, there are a number of rituals that are done. For starters, Obia is not a religion. You know, it's a catch-all word used to as an umbrella term for a number of rituals that are performed. They are said to be, you know, and again, can be done for quote-unquote good or quote-unquote bad. It all depends on how you use it. Now, a number of the traditions, a number of the rituals that are done by persons who consider themselves to be Obia man are not necessarily African. You have Asian rituals, you have Indian rituals too. For instance, this thing called ganja. That Rastaman, I am from Africa and I must smoke ganja. Ganja has nothing to do with Africa. Ganja is India. You know, it was initially used as a sacrament to an entity known as Kali, K-A-L-I. So initially it was known as Kali's weed. And then it became Kali weed. And then, you know, we have to decent it up. So we say Kali weed. But it's really Kali. It's an Indian entity. It was used as sacrament too. It has nothing to do with Africa. In Africa, they smoke other things. Right? Now, in terms of the comparison to Christianity, I tend to stay away. Persons tend to get very, very belligerent, very angry, very deeply angry at me and call me evil and all of that. I've been there a couple of times. So, you know, out of, you know, just abundance of caution, I tend to not to compare. And, you know, I will say, though, that across the African traditions that I have looked, there is a heaven, but there is no milk and honey flowing there. For starters, I don't believe that even in Christian theology that was meant to be taken literally. In the days when the Bible is set, milk and honey was supposed to be luxurious. It was just a way of saying a place in which you are comfortable and you are want for nothing. But some persons literally believe that it means milk and honey will be flowing. I don't buy that. All right. Another thing I noticed in Africa, there is no devil. You know, there is no, by that name, or no entity that fit that particular perspective. There are good and bad forces, but those are state of minds, not an entity itself. All right? There is no place called hell. It doesn't exist, not in African spiritual tradition. When you die, you go to the realm of the ancestors. In heaven, that is where the Supreme Creator, depending on the tradition that you practice, in Yoruba, it is Olodumare, and he's known by a number, not he. Olodumare is known by another name. No gender is prescribed for Olodumare. Amongst the voodoo people, and voodoo is not evil. We need to get that nonsense out of it. It's just another spiritual tradition from West Africa. The Supreme Creator there is Lisa Mao, is that double-sided entity. Lisa is male, connected to the sun. Mao is female, connected to the moon. And, you know, amongst the Akans, you have a number of names. Onyanke Pong, the Maroons nowadays, who are still children of the Akans, who consider themselves to be romantics. The Maroons still speak of Yankee Pong. Some say Yankee Pong Peekaboo. In Ghana, amongst the Fantiacom, it is Onyanke Pong. That's the name of the tradition. For the Congolese that I looked at, the Supreme Creator is called Zambi. Nowadays, you know, within the Kumina environment, Kumina is very deeply from the Congolese tradition. They still speak of King Zambi. In the Congo, Zambi is a female though, but in Jamaica, Zambi is interpreted as a male. Although with the infusion of Christianity, it's not surprising to hear people speak of Jehovah while referring to Zambi. That is the power of the strength of Christianity, the intrusion of Christianity. Now, outside of that, it's difficult to draw a comparison. The entities are different. There's no Samuel, no Mary, no Martha, no Samson, no Paul, no Luke, John, Matthew. None of that exists in Africa. You have a different set of entities. In Yoruba, you have Olodumare, that's the supreme creator, Shango, Obatala, Oshun, Oba, all of them. You have, a number of entities. In the Akans, you have Asaseyan, and Azemane, and a number of other. No name that is in the Bible is representative of Africa. In the Congolese, they have their own set of entities. In the Ijaw tradition, there's another set of entities. And the thing is, when you try to draw parallels and equivalences, that is when you run into problems. Because in Christianity, they had to find some entities who said that is the devil. Why? Because the devil is a major part in the Christian tradition. So that means there's no devil anywhere in Africa, in the original African spiritual traditions. Granted, with the infusion of Christianity, you may have persons who have now infused some elements of Christianity in their traditions and may have entities that are equivalent to the devil. But in the original spiritual traditions, of the 5 years that I looked at, there was no devil. Outside of that, I don't really want to go any closer, But I'm not sure if I answer your question, Courtney.
Come on, yeah, you answered perfectly well. And I don't want to really taking over the program, but I have some thoughts on these things, and so I think you are the person who can give me some answers.
We can talk.
All right.
1 minute, Courtney. 1 minute, Courtney. 1 minute before you get further. We have an extra 15 minutes we're going to add on this morning.
Okay.
So we're going to have you until 12:15 our time, whatever your time is. That's an additional 15 minutes. Let me welcome my co-host, Francine, this morning. Thank you, Francine, for joining us. And let me acknowledge Miss Lee and Cecil. Cecil Chin is here with us as well, and Ansel Lee. So, guys, feel free to join in.
All right, let me just quickly
go ahead now, Courtney. 1 minute, Cecil. Let Courtney go ahead.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. We see today, say transcendentalism and Unitarian universalism are modern influences which have infiltrated traditional spiritual philosophies. But it becomes dominant and having a greater impact on our present day generation. Why?
You're talking about transcendental meditation?
Yeah. And what you known as Unitarian universalism, have the church unity, who basically they are just speaking about mental philosophies, how to really, use your mind to achieve this, how to use your mind to attract, wealth and all of that. And this, this kind of influence has taken over, totally.
How to use your mind to attract wealth?
Yeah. No. What I'm saying is that these kind of philosophies now, it has been become modern spirituality.
Yeah. You're talking about concepts now that people speak about the universe, and what has happened though is that traditionally religion, I shouldn't say religion, but the Abrahamic faiths considered anything that deals with the universe, anything that deals with nature or that sees divinity in nature, they consider that to be pagan and contrary to the teachings of the Holy Ghost and Jesus Christ and whatever other entities exist here.
Mm-hmm.
African traditions, though, and I maybe I shouldn't say African, but the 5 traditions that I have looked at, these are all nature-based traditions. The sun, the moon, the stars, the rivers, the lakes, etc., rocks, you have got sacred trees, etc. They all have a place. And spirits are resident, they all have their own spirits. Now, there are also rituals that are used to attract money. There are money rituals. I'm not able to connect it with thinking that you can get money and money will automatically come to you. I know that there are rituals that are done. The practice that you're speaking about, I think your name is Cecil, Courtney. The practice that you're speaking about, I've seen them, but I haven't really looked at them. So I can't speak definitively about them. And I'm unable to actually connect them with any other traditions that I looked at within the African spiritual, within the Western and West Central Africa spiritual traditions. So sorry, I won't be able to help you much more with that.
Okay, thanks for your honesty, yeah, man.
No problem. Yes.
Okay, Cecil, you can go ahead now, Cecil.
I just want to apologize for being late.
Yes.
I was in another meeting which just ended.
Okay.
And I would like to thank you for inviting me and to acknowledge, Francine. Hi, Francine. How are you keeping? I see you're in your car, or it appears so.
Yes, sir.
And
that's how much I wanted to be online this morning.
Good. And Miss Lee and Courtney and Debon and Ansel.
No problem.
I just have one question for Debon. Is that the right pronunciation?
Debon, yes.
Debon. This subject.
Yes.
Isn't it basically based on one's belief?
Yes, these are entities that are part of that exist. They predate Christianity, and it all depends on the person to whom you are speaking. That's why I said at the start of the presentation, how they are represented, how they are interacted with, and how they are thought of depends on the cultural or spiritual prism through which the person to whom you are speaking. For persons who are of the Abrahamic faith, they are seen as non-existent, or if they do exist, they are seen as evil. For other people, they may see it other way. But if you ask a Ghanaian about the Moetias, you get a totally different answer. The Moetias is a major part of the Akom spiritual tradition. You ask a voodoo practitioner from Benin. And when I speak of voodoo, I'm not talking about Haitian voodoo or Louisiana voodoo. I'm talking about the source from which it all came. Haitian voodoo is a mix of Benin voodoo and the Congolese tradition, Catholic faith, etc., and a couple other traditions. I'm talking about voodoo as it exists in Benin and Togo. This is the commonly known as the Dahomey Empire, the Dahomey Kingdom, sorry. If you ask them, the Yevu is also a part of their tradition. So it all depends, yes, the belief is also there.
Thank you very much.
Yes, man.
All right, and I'm happy that Cecil brought that up, because I was just about to say, listening in, and I didn't want to jump out, but I was saying, but most of these, the statements that are made, they are talking about the Christianity part of it. And I was thinking, so what happened to the rest of religion? Them not have no issues with them. Why are just the Christianity part me here? But then after listening to what you're saying now, me not really need to jump out. As you would say this morning, me a dry out. Me not bother go dry.
That's right. I can tell you something maybe a little more from the Islamic perspective. Some of the entities, you may have heard of Aladdin's lamp and the genie. Rub the lamp 3 times and the genie came out and asked you to grant you 3 wishes.
I have 3 wishes. Give me them.
Now, what that points to is that points to 2 things, and without you even recognizing it, probably without you even recognizing. One is the number 3. It's very important in all the spiritual traditions across Africa, and also that spirits, are inanimate objects, the lamp or a rock or whatever it is. In Islam, the genie, the word genie comes from what Islam refers to as the jinns. These are supposed to be bad spirits. So they are in fact recognized there. Granted, this is not sacred dwarf I'm talking about, but just to show that even within amongst the organized religions, Islam, where Christianity say everything is evil, that is not Jesus Christ and Holy Spirit. Everything is evil. But the Islam said that the jinns are, and there's another category of spirits, I don't quite remember, but there's a jinns and something else, and I think 2 more. And these are all seen as negatives, but at least they're recognized as being existent. You can rub a lamp. The story has been romanticized into a lamp. You never had to start out with a lamp. Could have been a rock. It doesn't have to be something that could have been held in your hand. Could be a huge rock. and that are occupied by spirits, which is a similar thing to what exists in Africa, in Ghana, in the voodoo people. You've got sacred places, sacred valleys, sacred rivers, sacred trees.
You have the wishing wells as well. You go and you throw the coin in it, and you make the wish. And by the time you walk off, it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, that is more Hollywood. It doesn't really exist like that. And another thing that doesn't exist like that, we're talking everything. This concept of the voodoo doll. It doesn't exist like that. That is nonsense. That is something romanticized or sensationalized by what I call the Hollywood movie making machinery.
Okay.
Haitian voodoo, there is an artifact that looks kind of similar, but strictly speaking, it is not from voodoo. It is from the Congolese. Remember, I said Haitian voodoo is a mix of Benin voodoo and the Congolese voodoo, a Congolese tradition. In the Congo, there's an artifact called the Inkisi power figure. That is a statuette with nails driven all over it. That is what and they have adopted it in Haiti as part of their tradition because it involves a mixture of both the Congolese and the Benin voodoo. And I think it is also in Louisiana voodoo as well. I'm not sure. But stick a pin into the voodoo doll, and the voodoo doll represents Flavius. And when you stick the pin through the hand, Flavius' hand hurt him. It doesn't work like that. It's a sensationalization from movie. It doesn't work like that. It's nonsense.
All right. So that's another thing, because now that you mention it, so when they say that, because they normally have that on the movie channels, and you watch it and you see where them juke the dolly and anywhere them juke them jump. So it's not like that. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Galaxy.
Did your studies come from originating from studying about the Maroons in Jamaica, and it brought you to all this knowledge?
No, I started by looking at the title of my research is Mapping Western and West Central Spiritual Traditions through Afro-Jamaican Spiritual Worship. The Maroons form part of the Afro-Jamaican spiritual worship or spiritual practice that I'm looking at. So that is how the Maroons come in. It never started with the Maroons. It started with this need to know what came before the Maroons and what came before revivalism. Or really, what was brought here with the ancestors when they were taken here as slaves. That is where it started. And from there, I've been able to connect to Kumina, to revivalism, well, both orders of revivalism, 60 and 61, as well as the Maroons. So that is how it has led. It started from looking at the need to look at what was brought here.
So you don't look at the Maroons as evil people or...
No, the Maroons are regular human beings like you and I, and they have their spiritual tradition that they practice. They're not evil.
So their spiritual tradition that they practice is not evil?
No, it's not evil. It's just different from Christianity. In fact, most of them are actually practicing Christians.
Why I ask is because I am from a Maroon descendant, and I refuse to learn about the Maroon tradition.
Why?
I went to a Maroon dance when I was a child, and I swear I would never go back.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about that is, I too am from Maroon ancestry. My lineage goes back to the place now known as Flagstaff in Trelawney, with Maroon Town, Trelawney, St. James border. And there are things that I used to see my aunt do in Trelawney that I can't speak about. That, as a child, it was very frightening. But that never stopped me from wanting to learn about it. I mean, I guess each person, you have to draw your own line in the sand and do it, As a matter of fact, about 2 or so years ago, I was at a Maroon function, one of their annual festivals. And the first thing that they did was the dancing and the calling of the ancestors. And, one of the leads in the program that was actually printed and provided for us, when I look at the names of the dancers, one of them was, I'm going to change the name, but let us say Pastor Karen Brown. She was a Christian pastor. But she was participating in the dance and blowing rum and calling the ancestors just like the rest of us, just like the rest of the people that were there. And at the end of that, they asked her now to invite the presence of the Holy Ghost. And she did that. And at the end of her prayers, she said, in Jesus' name, she's a genuine Christian. But she practiced Maroon spiritual tradition, what you call a plural environment, where on one end, you practice your Christianity. Well, you pay homage to your ancestors and you blow your rum and you know, whatever it is needed to keep in good faith, in good position with them. That is what separates Jamaican Christianity from Christianity in some other areas. Or elements of the Jamaican Christianity from Christianity in other areas.
But I remember when my grandmother was sick once, a lady from her native area came and said to us, we have to buy the rum and blow the rum around the house. And everybody's like, I am not doing that. We disappeared. And then my uncle went and did it. And my grandmother was up and around by the next morning. We're like, what? No, sir, this is too dangerous. We don't want to know nothing about it.
What makes it dangerous? All he did was blow the rum. The significance of blowing the rum and knowing what it does, that scares you.
It was very scary for us. So but listening to what you're saying, I understand from hearing what my grandmother was teaching us about Maroon and whatever. So it brings me back to ask you that question, if that's why you learn further in your learning about what you're talking about now.
No, first again, the Maroons are not evil people, and their traditions are not evil. They're just not Christians. You know, when you try to, as I was saying earlier, when you try to draw equivalences across and try to equate X with Y, you run into problems. You just have to recognize that the two systems are completely different. If you practice one and you want to go over to the next, you have to just understand that you just do whatever the next one requires without making reference to the first one. There are two separate things.
Okay. Debon, quickly before we go.
Yes.
It's a very simple question though.
I have a question though.
Yeah, can a person be very religious and not spiritual, or vice versa?
It all depends on your interpretation of the word spiritual. It all depends on what you mean. Normally or traditionally,
traditional spirituality.
It has to do with someone belonging to an established institution, religious institution, Anglican, Roman Catholic, Baptist, whatever, and you stick to that. It tends to be more of a community. Spirituality tends to be more individual. I am not part of the established order, but I respect God, or I respect the Maroon tradition, things like that. I don't know that you can be both of them. People practice like the lady that I was talking about, the person that did was doing the Maroon dance, and then was a pastor. She obviously does them both. In Cuba, you will find people who are staunch Roman Catholics, and they also practice the
Santeria, yeah.
Santeria, and they do
Santeria, yeah.
So traditionally, I have to admit that yes, it is possible, but probably not so much looking at it as being religious versus spiritual. It's easier to accept when you say you practice Roman Catholicism and Santeria. It's easier to deal with that level than going deeper to say you're religious but not spiritual, or spiritual but not religious, or you're both religious and spiritual.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna get the last question to Miss Lee. Go ahead now, Miss Lee.
I have a question. I would like to know the original purpose of Kumina.
Okay, Kumina.
The original purpose of Kumina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back in time a bit. Kumina is from the Congolese spiritual tradition. It's very strongly Congolese. Nowadays, Kumina in Jamaica is seen by a lot of people as just a mere dance. There's much, much more to Kumina than that. There's a spiritual side of it in which rituals are done appeasement.
Because in
Sorry?
It's not just a mere dance in Jamaica at all.
No, I'm saying some people see it as a dance, a mere dance. They go back there and the coming up.
They use it to even.
I'm not hearing you. I'm saying there's more.
I'm saying that in Jamaica, it's not just a mere dance.
No, I'm agreeing.
Because you have persons that you to do evil.
They will come back with the evil thing again. I think we're agreeing to a point. I am saying that some people see it as just.
They use it to kill people.
Hold on, allow me to speak now, please. Some people see it as a dance, you know, at a funeral or at a wedding or a thing. But as I was saying, there's significantly more to Kumina than that. There's a spiritual side of Kumina, in which rituals are done, appeasements are made. And again, it goes back to how you use it. Kumina itself is not intrinsically evil. It depends on how you use it. It depends on how you use it. All right? Just like the Akan tradition, just like the Maroon tradition, just like Yoruba, it depends on how you use it. I want to give you a joke. I was talking to a Kumina priest, and he has marked some elements of Christianity into his practice. And he said something that blew my mind. He said, well, there are a number of ways in which readings are done. Readings are divinations, where you tell somebody what is happening in their life spiritually. And he said one of the ways that he used is to have the person read a verse from the Holy Bible. And that is what tells them what is happening in a person's life. So you see, even elements or artifacts from Christianity, the Bible, depending on how you use it, can be interpreted as being good or being bad. Other people are said to use the Bible to do evil. The Bible is supposed to be a good book, and I'm not questioning that. I'm saying, just like the African spiritual traditions, it depends on how you use it.
Yeah. It's just like with a knife, with a kitchen knife then.
So you can stab somebody. It depends on how you use it.
It depends on how you use it. Okay.
All right, panel. Thank you all for coming this morning. I want to thank all of you by individual names: Ansel, Courtney, Francine, Cecil, Miss Lee, myself, Debon, Flavius, and all those in the chat room this morning, Toilette, and Reggae Nostalgia. We thank you all. And Debon, most of all, we thank you for taking time out and, being our guest this morning. We ask that you do it again with us. Maybe we can do a part 2 so we can go deeper.
No problem, not a problem.
Yes, I agree. I would like to question Debon a little more, but we haven't got time.
The interview the discussion was recorded, correct?
Yeah.
Well, what's his name? Cecil can look at that first and see if I answer any questions that you may want to ask. If not, then he can talk to me through Flavius. Not a problem.
Okay. So before we leave, let me give you today's daily inspiration. So you might want to mute your mic.
Celebrate the position of breathable functions in the land of the living. Deepen the experience, refreshingly positive. The mindset of innovation. Creating a good day requires no less.
That was from Ansel Lee. So once again, thank you all for being here. Flavius?
Yeah, I'm here.
You have anything to say before I get out of here?
No, I'm just thank everybody for coming and for all those who are listening. It's not a topic that is talked about every day, but I totally learned a lot, from it. I heard a lot of things that I didn't even think about. So thanks again, Debon. You have opened up, our eyes very wide to understand some of the things that is happening around the place. Yeah, Franco, back to you.
All right. So with that, bye everyone. Have a good day. Those who have to go back to work, get back to your jobs. All right, Tafina to take us out.
Okay, bye, Francine, Courtney, Ansel, and Franco.
All right, bye, sister.
The sound of your voice makes me weak. All you gotta do is just speak. One word is enough, and I'm no longer so rough. I forget what I was trying to say. I no longer do what I was gonna do, but you're no good for me. That's why me know set me if it go flee. Me I fi take away me say. Me I fi take away me say. Me I fi hide like a thief in the night. Me I fi get out of sight. Me I fi take away me say. I fi take away myself. I have to utilize I weeds. Surely I clean berries. I said, yeah, I find you very hard to resist. With this relationship I'm gonna
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.
When all I wanna do is just taste you. I know you think I play me, but soon you're gonna see the light of day. Just relax, don't move an inch. I'll be gone in a pinch. May I feel take away myself. May I feel take away myself. May I feel I like a thief in the night. May I forget out of sight. May I feel take away myself. Take away myself. I have to utilize I weed. Surely I have clean berries.
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.